looking for the webinar to start the webinar, and I could not find the link. I was like, "Where's the link? Where did it go?" So I recreated everything, and I guess something must have worked because a lot of you are in here already. But it wasn't giving me anything. I literally did not know. Use an old link, Melissa. Okay. Did you get? I sometimes it sends out notifications to let you guys know we're about to start class. Did you even get that notification? I don't know. Let me know if you got something in email. You did get that. You did get the reminder. I don't know what was happening. I was like, what's going on? Oh, you got the text. Okay, you got the text, Larry. Okay. Larry's my father's name, by the way. Yeah, okay, I know I sent the text, but also Zoom sends out an email notification, a reminder, like 1 hour or 1 day till, something like that. Okay, use an old link. Okay, well, you know what? I'm gonna tell you, y'all are really dedicated because today was one of those days where it was you had to consciously find the link to come in, it seems like. And so if you did that, that's really cool. That I appreciate that. I respect you for that because it's one thing if you get reminded to do something. It's another thing when you remind yourself, and that shows a certain level of discipline and commitment. And I have a lot of appreciation for that. And I'm not going to let you down. All right, so let's talk about something. Oh, so let me tell you what was on my mind. So first off, just first things first. Again, if you want to know how to handle the stock market that's out here, I did something today on the Black Financial Channel that basically talks about the market and what's going on. And I mentioned a couple stocks that I really like, and I really think this is a good time to go shopping. I mentioned that. So the Black Financial Channel, I think it's theblackfinancialchannel.com. We also have a Spotify podcast called Dr. Boyce Daily, where I just cover daily stuff with the stock market. So if you go to Spotify, look up Dr. Boyce Daily. You can check that out if you're looking for places that you might want to park some money. Again, not invested advice, but it is what I'm doing with my money. And because right now I'm excited about this market because it's down, and also because I believe that the Fed is going to engage in some sort of action that could lead to a rally next week. But then again, you don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody can predict. I've read all the research, well, not all of it, but a bunch of it, and it doesn't. It pretty much just says you can't predict what a stock is going to do. So don't believe people when they tell you, "Oh, this stock is definitely going up," and I've been fighting with that my whole life because it just doesn't work. All right, so I see Claudia out of London. Nice. I love my folks in Black London. Oh man, London's got the coolest black people ever. If you ever just want to hang out with some really cool kick-ass black people, go to London, and they're just down. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna be honest with you, as an American, the accent throws you off a little bit, the British accent. And it sounds so fancy and sophisticated. It's so sophisticated, right? But it's like so cool because you're really in tune with our culture and who we are. And it actually makes me feel embarrassed. I was actually embarrassed when I went to London. We did an event in London. It was a while back now. I got to go back. And it was complete. Both events I did in London, actually. I did something in 2017, 2018. Both times sold out. Tons of people showed up. And I was embarrassed. And the reason I was embarrassed is because I became conscious of the fact that as Americans, we're very self-absorbed. Like I feel like as Americans, we think about ourselves and what we got going on here, but we're not thinking about what's happening in other countries around the world. And I really hadn't gone to London that much. And I said, man, I didn't know I had this many people here who really support what we're doing. And I still remember that after the event was done and I did the book signing, and this is a blessing, so I'll never complain about it. But I remember literally sitting there. I was tired. When you give a speech, you're kind of drained after because we put a lot of energy into it. And I looked and I saw this line that was so long. It was like all the way going all the way to the back and out the door. And some people had to stand in line for 2 hours to get their book signed. And it's one of those moments where you're like, wow, all these people are here because they want to talk to me. Man, and this is like God, Color Purple, and it's like God is trying to tell you something. That I felt like the message to God was like, okay, this is a blessing. Like, just make sure you don't ever take this for granted. So, and I didn't. I said, because as tired as I was, because my first thought was like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. How am I going to sign all these books? But then I'm like, no, boys, no, no, this is the dream. This is the blessing. This is what we wanted. We wanted all of our people really in tune with wealth. We wanted our people elevating. We wanted this economic revolution. It's happening. You're in it. You're in it. Focus. Lock in. So that's what I did. That was my thought process when I was in London. And so I can just tell you, like, Black London's the coolest people in the world. And there's actually a Black lady, not that this has anything to do with what we're going to teach about today, but there was a when I was in the airport, a lot of people, man, also, if you've been hanging out long enough, you'll know that I had trouble in London because I messed up. What I did in London that got me in trouble, I got detained at the airport. I literally got detained. They put me in a, it wasn't a cell, it was like a room with like no windows and a TV in a vending machine, and I could not leave. I could not leave. I could not call anybody. I could not tweet. I could do none of that. And they did that because I came into the country and I didn't know that I needed to have some sort of visa to even host an event there. Like the lady, the white lady was asking me these questions, like, so why are you here? And I mentioned why, and she's like, so what kind of event is this? And I said, and I told her, and she said, "Are they going to be charging money for this event?" And I didn't know where she was going. If I had really been alert, I would have. Maybe I was tired or something. If I'd been alert, I would have realized, oh boy, she's trying to trap you, man. The white lady don't care nothing about what you're doing. And I kept answering the questions. Next thing I knew, she goes, "Can you have a seat over here?" I'm like, "Oh shit." So the lady that they put in charge of like detaining me was actually a Black woman. And I remember I was trying to tell her like what, like what we're doing and why. And I'm thinking, you're Black, you get this, right? You understand why we come on, wink, wink. You gotta hook me up, girl. She did not care. She was straight up working for the government. She was like, I'm gonna detain your Black ass because you're a criminal. You're probably just like Farrakhan, because I think Farrakhan got banned from England or something, which it's crazy because you should be banning bad people, not people that are, Farrakhan ain't hurting nobody. But anyway, this is what happened. Yeah. So they what they did was is what they did was they basically kept me in this holding cell for a really long time. By the time I was done, I was really angry. I remember being really pissed off because they had me in this place for 8 hours, and I couldn't call anybody. Nobody knew where I was. Everybody, my whole team was there. They were all looking for me. And when they let me go, what they did was the lawyer had worked something out where we would still do the event, but they said we're going to take your passport and we're keeping your passport because you have to leave on Monday and you cannot stay, right? So they took my passport and I had to get it back. But the problem was they even took me off my original flight, where they were going to put me on some other plane. And I was like, but that's not my actual plane. They were like, I was like, my real plane is going to leave, in the afternoon. They're like, no, we need you on this plane in the morning, right? So anyway, I remember getting to the airport. Normally, you get to the airport for a flight, maybe no more than 3 hours before your flight. If it's international, maybe it's 2.5 hours. I do it like that. This case, I had to get there like 6 hours early. Is and when I got there, I did not know where to go. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know what to do. I was just lost, and I was frustrated. I was confused. I didn't know what to do. And so let me tell you this story. And this is I'm gonna tell you why this story is sentimental to me. Not just because I love Black London, but because it just reminded me of why I have such an appreciation for Black women. So let me explain what happened. So I was sitting there and I was trying to explain to this white lady like what was going on. I go to the counter. I'm like, well, they told me to come in, but they didn't tell me what flight I'm on. She's like, so you don't have a ticket? I'm like, I do have a ticket, but they told me I'm on a different flight and they took my passport. And I'm trying to explain everything to her. And she just is trying to sort through it, but it was kind of a confusing story. And so there was right next to me, there was a Black lady, right, standing there, just kind of overhearing our conversation. And she turns and she goes, in her British accent, she's like, "Don't worry, Sarah. I'll take care of this. I can't do a good British accent. It's terrible, but that's what it was. I remember that." And I was like, "Okay, all right. Well, I'll talk to you." And so I start telling her like what the story is and what's going on, and they took my passport and they detained me, and now they're telling me I got to leave, but I'm not a terrorist. I promise I'm not dangerous. And so she starts sort of picking on the computer. I have no idea what they're doing when they're clicking and stuff, but she's pecking away on the computer. And then out of the blue, she says something like, I'm sorry I had to miss your event. My son had a karate tournament. And I was like, oh, you know who I am. And she was like apologizing for not making it like it was a homework assignment. I was like, well, it's not. You don't have to be there, but I appreciate it. Thank you. And so it turned out that she was one of us. She was B1. She was part of our space, our community, right? She appreciated what we were doing. So unlike the first Black woman that I met who was down to like lock me up, this new black woman was like, I get it, you know, and I'm here to help you, black man. So let's get this figured out. So what then happens is she's taking me to where I need to go. And again, remember, I'm going from complete confusion to literally feeling a little bit safer and secure. Like, okay, now I'm with somebody who knows what the hell they're doing and where we're going, and I'm better now. And I remember she hands me off to another black woman, and she says, "Here's what's going on. Make sure that he gets there okay." You know, and I felt safe. You know what I mean? Like I felt like, wow, look at this. These two black women are working together to make sure that I'm good. Because right now I'm a fugitive. I'm a black man who's, you know, like the masses trying to lock me up. And it reminds me of slavery, you know, like massa coming to kill you, and the black woman says, "Here, hide in the basement, and I won't tell them where you at." Like I felt that way, right? And I remember just feeling, and it's so stupid. Maybe I'm making something out of nothing, but I felt sentimental, and it because it reminded me of how many times black women have come through for us, right? And I'm not going to keep talking about it like this. Like, damn. Okay, I'm getting emotional now. I got to stop. Stop it, boys. Stop it. We're not going to do that today. But I think about just, you know, it made me think about my mother, my sister, my grandmother, my daughters, just all these women that just have this nurturing, loving kind of spirit that just make sure you're okay. Like, you know, the baby's hungry, so they make sure the baby gets some food and all that. And I got on my plane and I got home okay. And I never forgot those two women that got me to my gate safely and helped me in what was really a confusing and very frustrating situation. So if these women, if any of them happen, if one of you happens to be here or hear this, I want to just say thank you. I never forgot that. That was really touching for me to have that experience. And so anyway, so yeah, so let's not, you know, let's just make sure we shout out our black women. You know, we gotta, you know, they have some tough things. It's tough for them, right? It's tough for all of us. We all trying to figure this thing out about being black and all that. So anyway, let me stop and get to our topic for today. All right, so here's what I wanted to address today. I had a conversation yesterday with a friend of mine that I hadn't seen for a long time, and it's one of those things. You get older and you haven't talked for years, and you have that friend you see him once every 5 or 6 years, and each time it's like a universe of time has passed by. And I saw him now, and I remember when we were like 7, 8, 9 years old, and he, in my mind, he was a little kid, and now he's got this big long gray beard. You know, I'm like, oh my God, this 9-year-old has this big beard, but he's not a 9-year-old. He's a grandfather now, and because that's how time works. And we were just sitting on the porch, just kind of catching up, just talking about life and everything. And we started actually talking about money. And he was talking about his someone in his family who inherited a lot of money, who literally went from you know, like regular working class to having 5 million dollars, right? Because her spouse died and he had all these insurance policies, and so there was all this money available. And he said, "I'm really concerned." And I said, "Why? What's going on? Why are you worried?" He said, "Because she keeps on spending, 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 and I think that by the time she's gone, there will be no more money left." And I was like, "Really?" And she said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, she spends, spends, spends." And I said, "Well, did you talk to her about it?" And she said, "Well, you know, you can't really talk to her because she won't listen to anybody because she feels like everybody's trying to get a piece of her money." And I said, "Yeah, but she's got to, you know, somebody's got to protect that money." And I said, 70% of all wealthy families lose all their wealth in one generation. I mentioned that to you all before. 90% of wealthy families lose all their wealth in 2 generations. And so I said, "Well, what about the kids, the grandkids?" I mean, and we started talking. It led us down a rabbit hole of conversations. And I said, "If you're talking about $4 million, man, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of stuff you can do." And of course, she got a new boyfriend, right? And a new man that's, suddenly finds her to be so, intriguing and beautiful and everything else, right? And I joke with my mom. I said, "Oh, I hope she ain't hooked up with one of them hobosexuals." My friend uses that term. The hobosexual is like the dude that wants to hang out with the lady that's got a lot of money. That's the funny little term. But anyway, so she got this boyfriend, and of course there's expenses that come with that, and she's paying for everything for everybody all the time. She's got a lot of siblings that are asking for money, and he worried about the money disappearing. So a couple things I mentioned to him is I said, number one, a lot of people think that to preserve your wealth, you have to save everything. You've got to really, sort of beat yourself up, make sure you don't let any money go, and all this other stuff. You have to be really strict and extreme, almost like being on a financial diet. And that's just not true. You don't have to be extreme to preserve your wealth. And but you must preserve the wealth. And I asked him a question I've asked you all before. I said, you like football, right? He said, yeah. I said, what's the number one job of the quarterback? Answer me in the chat. Some of y'all who know me, you know the answer. If you're new, you may not know. What's the job of the quarterback in football? Can anybody tell me? What's the number one job, the most important job of the quarterback? Put it in the chat. There we go. Okay, I see Antoinette. I see. Okay, I see a lot of you. Okay, y'all been paying attention, Jonathan. Good, very good. It's to protect the ball. Is to protect the ball. It's not to throw the ball. It's not to run the ball. It's not to score touchdowns. It's none of that. It's to protect the ball. If you're not sure, just ask Jalen Hurts, who unfortunately failed to protect the ball when the Eagles lost the Super Bowl because of one play where they got sacked and the guy ran it back for a touchdown. So I said, protecting the wealth has to be the first thing that you do. Safety first. And then after that you can spend. And a lot of people think that preserving your wealth means not enjoying your wealth, and that's not true. I compare it to going to college. When I went to college, everybody said, "Don't go to those parties. You'll flunk out of school if you go to the parties." And I learned after a couple years that it wasn't going to the parties that caused my friends to flunk out of school. It was when they didn't study after the party or they didn't study before the party. See, if you study in between the parties, then you can go to all the parties and be fine. The parties ain't what made you flunk out of school. It's the lack of balance. It's the fact that you didn't handle your business first. It's the lack of what we discuss in my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. We talk about that as economic maturity. Economic maturity means that I'm gonna have fun, but I'm gonna handle my business first. I'm not gonna go gamble away the rent money. I'm not going to use money for the car note to put in a strip-a-thong at the club. I'm not going to do the silly things before I do the mature things. I'm not going to do the extra things before I do the necessary things. So you protect the ball first. The quarterback must protect the ball, but protecting the ball is not enough. You want to score some touchdowns. So after you figure out how to make sure you protect the ball, then you throw it, lop it downfield, and get you some yardage. Right? You can score touchdowns in life, but you must protect the ball. If you do not protect the ball, nothing else matters. You don't, and then eventually you have no ball to protect. Jalen Hurts could not protect the ball. Somebody else had the ball. So when it comes to black wealth, the biggest problem that we have is that a lot of us are not trained early to protect the ball. We're not. We're not. We throw it away. You know what I'm talking about. The economic immaturity is everywhere. I've just seen. I remember Gilbert Arenas, the basketball player, and he was talking about spending 50,000, $100,000 at a strip club, and I was like, man, you're not protecting the ball. What are you doing? That's silly. And again, I don't know about Gilbert Arenas' money, so I'm not going to talk about him like that. But I will say that generally speaking, economic immaturity is when you basically spend money kind of like a child. Because if you give money to a child and you say to the child, you say, well, what are you going to do with your money? What's the child going to say? They're not going to say, well, I'm going to put some in my 401k, and then I'm going to make sure all the bills are paid. Then I'm going to make sure I put some money in the college fund. No, they're going to go buy candy. They're going to go buy some shoes. They're going to go buy some toys. And unfortunately, because you don't have an economic version of a rites of passage for your young people, all right, we have a lot of of bearded babies in our society. We have little kids that look like grown men. They look like grown women. They got sexy hips and beards and big muscles and all that. But if you ask them like, so you got all this money, what are you going to do with it? Well, I'm going to go get this car, which is a different kind of toy. I'm gonna go spend money on this girl. I'm gonna go look fly. I'm gonna go to the Gucci store. And there's nothing wrong with the Gucci store. There's nothing wrong with having the car that you want. There's nothing wrong with any of that. That's not my job to judge. But there is something wrong when that's the first thing that you do. Do you understand? So priorities matter. Your sequence of activities matter. You must put the first things first, and you cannot put the first things last, because if you put the first thing last, then you're gonna be in last place when it comes to your economics. So I was explaining this to him as we were just kind of talking about this relative that literally bought several cars. When she got the money, she bought several cars. She spent a lot of money on a lot of extra things. He said, I go over there and I see furniture, and I'm like, wait a minute, but didn't we just buy some furniture? And I know this was at least 5,000 because this is really nice, and it's just like the other thing that you just bought. And he was worried about the money disappearing. So what I thought I'd do was kind of research and look into some of this. So he and I talked, and I gave him my thoughts on some things. I also showed him some of the stuff that we talk about with stock options, right? I said, just with literally 10% of that money, she could go and buy, say, 2,000 shares of Coinbase stock and sell the options every week for maybe about $4 a piece and have $8,000 a week that she could burn. She could literally burn that money if she wanted to. $8,000 a week is a lot of money. That's what's that? $400,000 a year. Did I do the math right? Yeah. So you so you got $400,000 a year that you could spend like a complete fool and still preserve your wealth, still protect the ball, still protect. I mean, just if you protect the ball, then you can throw it downfield and see if you can get a Hail Mary. You can run it. You can do whatever you want, but you got to protect the ball. So I said, if you just showed her something very basic like that, then she could preserve the wealth and still enjoy the money. So there's nothing wrong with enjoying money. It's unfortunately when the priorities are mixed up and we're not taught these sort of basic ideas that we end up making that mistake. So let me kind of give you something, some information on something that you may or may not have heard of this. This is a phenomenon they refer to as sudden wealth syndrome. Sudden wealth syndrome. And that's basically when a person gets a whole lot of money and they never had nothing, right? And you see it a lot. If you see a lottery winner, that sudden wealth syndrome can kick in. If you take a look at maybe players that maybe make it to the NBA and their relatives go crazy, they've got to kind of hide from their relatives because they suddenly have all this money. That's an example of sudden wealth syndrome. And sudden wealth syndrome is a virus that infects lots and lots of people, and it typically ends up zapping you to the point that you are broke. And so, sudden wealth syndrome, one of the things that can happen when a person comes into a lot of money all of a sudden, and he described this that his relative was going through this, is they can feel sometimes some guilt or anxiety around having all this money. Like you get it all, you've never had money like this before, you kind of freak out and you just don't know what to do next. You're kind of just like, oh God, what am I gonna do? And so maybe because you're so scared, you either don't do anything or you do something crazy or you make investments that just don't make any sense, right? You make investments that you buy the crazy crypto your cousin recommended you. Your other cousin says, "Hey, I want to invest in this liquor store. You help me buy this liquor store." And you do all these other things, and sometimes it gets to the point where you can do something that you think is actually healthy. You can say, "Hey, I'm investing. I'm really doing this." And then because I run into people sometimes like that who say, "Yeah, Dr. Boyce, we're investing." I say, "Well, what are you investing in?" And sometimes it'll be things that are extremely, extremely risky, right? And one of the other challenges that you do have is is that sometimes the style of investing that you're introduced to by whoever influenced you isn't necessarily healthy or it does not work for you. So let me tell you a true life real story that happened to me this week. You guys know in the Black Business School, we have a Fly Nubian Money where the ladies, Athena Gardner and Constance Carter and Lene Javette, every single day, and my wife, Dr. Alicia, they go in there and they just have girl talk. They have girl talk about money and everything else. And they pick their own topics. I don't even say, I have no say in what they discuss. They just get on there and they do their thing. And anyway, and they're really smart women. I'll give you information on how you can jump in because they're really smart. And if you're a smart woman, you can reach out to them. They'll probably have you on. And they chose to talk about a topic that I just stayed away from completely, and that was Damon Dash. Now, I don't know if you've been following this week what's going on with Dame. Apparently, Dame is in. He's an interesting guy. I hung out with him a lot back, maybe about up until maybe about 2017 or so. And then for personal reasons, I just felt like I had to kind of move to a different space. But I like him. I don't have any issue with him at all. And he treated me. He was a decent guy. We had a good experience for the most part. And so anyway, they wanted to talk about this, and their question was, how did you go from having all this money with Jay-Z to not really being where you're supposed to be? Now, I don't know if he's wealthy or not. 50 Cent seems to feel that Damon lost all his money. He says that's why Dame's got no money. And then, of course, Dame comes back and says, well, I do have money. I have a TV network and blah, blah, blah. So he kind of made it into a battle. And so anyway, they had the conversation and they were kind of asking like, well, what happened to the money and what's really going on? And then it got kind of funny. It was interesting because I think Dame was talking and his some of his teeth fell out or something like that. And I didn't say anything about it. I'm not here to make fun of anybody. Look, I had to do a whole lot of work on my grill, so I ain't making fun of nobody who's got dental challenges, because Lord knows I'd be the first in line to be embarrassed about that. But the thing about it was, it made me reflect. I know this, like this morning when we were talking on the stock stuff, I saw someone in the chat, and it looked like it was Dame Dash, and he says, "Dr. Boyce, keep my name out of your mouth." And I was like, "Well, your name wasn't in my mouth. I wasn't talking about you today. What? Oh, I get it. Oh, that's right, because the ladies were talking about you. But what I did say, here's what I said, and this is why I'm bringing this up, is that one thing that I remember noticing with Dame was that he has a certain style of investing. He is financially conscious in his own way. I think he played a significant role in the creation of Jay-Z, in the creation of Kanye West. He's a very smart man, and but his investing style was different from my own. Now, if you ever listen to Dame talk about investing, one thing that he would talk about, he has a what's the word? He's not afraid of risk. He's I've heard him use terms like bet it all when it comes to money and investing. And here's the thing. I'm not here to say that that's right or wrong. I'm just here to say that you have to make sure you understand the consequences of how you approach the investing world. You have to make sure you understand it, because what will happen is celebrities will tell you a story that will be very inspirational, but what you don't hear is the dark side of that story. So someone will say something like, they'll go on a TV show and they'll say, you should never have a plan B. You should go for it all, lay it all out there, because that's the only way you can be successful, is if you put it all out there. And you're hearing this person where obviously some of that worked out for them. They may not be telling you everything, but you're like, I look up to this person, and you're assuming that if you do the same thing, it's going to work out for you the same way. But that's not true, because they're not telling you about the dark side of the risks that they took. They're not telling you about all the millions of other people who tried the same thing and it did not work. Do you understand? This happens when black boys overinvest in trying to get to the NBA or the NFL. They are basing their decision to invest, because they're investing something more important than money. They're investing their life in this. They're basing their decision to invest on what we would call a biased sample. The biased sample is, you're looking at one guy who did bet it all, who came out of the gutter and made it to the NBA. They're not showing you the other 50,000 people who tried the same thing and failed. They don't show you that. And in finance, the specific term that's used to describe that, in academic research, is what they call a selection bias. Selection bias is when you're looking at one person's outcome and you're thinking that's going to be everybody's outcome, and that's not true. You're looking at a biased sample. So in my opinion, here's what I'm saying, is that if you're taking a certain risk, you don't just want to think about the people who took the risk and it worked out. You want to say, well, I need to go take a look at the people where it didn't work out. What happened to them? Oh, wait, 98% of them went broke. Oh, okay, I got to know what I'm getting into. Do you understand? Right. So again, just circling back, if you want to talk about Dame and Dash, now Dame, now you can't say your name is in my mouth, but it's not disrespectful. I'm not being disrespectful. I still remember the first conversation I had with Charlemagne. He called me after Dame and Dash did a really great interview on Breakfast Club, where he pretty much just, went into this tirade about, having your own business, and you shouldn't have a boss, and having a boss is like calling another man daddy and stuff like that. And it was heavy. It was a real heavy interview. It was very popular, and he did a good job, but it was like really, really super hot water. And sometimes when you get in the bathtub, you need hot water, because hot water feels good. Sometimes hot water will wake you up, but if it's scalding hot water, it will burn your ass. So sometimes you need a little cool water to calm down the hot water. So here's what was going on. So Charlemagne calls and he says, man, he says, after Dame did his interview, Dr. Boyce, I got brothers calling me saying, I'm quitting my job tomorrow. I'm quitting my job tomorrow. And he said, nothing wrong with working for other people. We need to, white people get jobs. We should be able to get jobs too. And I just need you to like kind of kill off some of what he said. And I said, well, let's start with what I like about what he said. I said, I think black men kind of need to be woken up a little bit. I do. I think that as a source of pride, we have to understand the problem that comes with us submitting to people who don't respect us very much. right? We have to understand, particularly men and women, but really as men, when you talk about things that we have like testosterone and pride and everything else, it's a little tough when even our very best and brightest feel that the best thing you can ever do is work for a white man. I don't like that. I don't believe in that. I'm not built to just go serve somebody like that. That's not how that would not make me feel good about myself. So I like the idea of kind of injecting a little bit of pride in these men to kind of say, "Come on, man, you can do this," right? Now, on the other hand, I don't like the idea of shaming anybody that does have a job because you can build wealth while you have a job. The thing you got to understand though is that typically that job is not the thing that's going to make you wealthy. You cannot work, you typically in America cannot work your way to wealth. You cannot save your way to wealth. So while a job is perfectly fine, there has to be a wealth building strategy around that job so that when I get my paycheck, if I do the right things with the paycheck, I can then spend that off into multiple streams of income and build wealth. Why am I doing this? Not just so I can be rich and drive a nice car. I'm doing this so I can be safe. I'm doing this so I can be safe from corporate racism where they'll fire your black ass before they fire anybody else. I'll be safe from all the anxiety and the stress that comes with financial insecurity. I'll be safe because I know I can provide for my family, even if they decide that because I'm so radical, they want to let me go. I talked to a woman the other day, a professor, who said, "Yeah, this HBCU is looking to try to fire me because they're telling me I'm too radical and I'm too pro-black." I'm like, how in the hell is it that we have HBCUs trying to push professors out because they're too pro-black? Oh, I get it. It's because the people who write those checks for them are saying, no, 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 we don't want to be affiliated with this kind of blackness. There is very little incentive for anybody outside of the black community to advocate assertively for an independent black community. That is not something they want. That has to be something that you want. That's not something they're going to fight for. You got to fight for it. If you don't fight for it, then it's never going to happen. Give me a yes if you agree. Give me a yes if you understand where I'm coming from, even if you don't agree with everything. So what I did say to Charlamagne was I said, I enjoyed Dame's interview. I kind of liked it, but I said, but what I can do is maybe I can contextualize it a little bit so nobody feels bad, and we know that it's okay to start with a job. A lot of us I had a job. There's nothing wrong, nothing to be ashamed of, but let's aim for something better, right? So let's prepare for the worst, but aim for the best. Like I feel like there's untapped potential in our community where we kind of have to take on a little bit of that risk. So I think that what I know what I love about Dame Dash is I think all of us need a little bit of Dame Dash in us in the sense of saying, let's really go for it. Let's take some chances. Now, here's where we're a little bit different. Where we're a little bit different is that when he says, I bet it all and I'm gonna throw it all on the line, I'm more of a person who says, yes, let's take risks, let's be dangerous, let's go for it, but make sure it's a clearly calculated risk. Let's make sure that it's not completely driven by 100% passion, but also driven by a lot of logic, reason, consciousness, financial consciousness. You and I, that's what we're here for. That's what we do every morning. Financial consciousness, right? Consciousness means I'm not just going to look at all the good things that can come out of this. I'm going to look at the bad things and make sure that I'm ready. I'm ready for that. That I'm about that life. But then also the problem is the other extreme that many of us go to because we are so heavily traumatized and we don't get the support that we deserve. We don't have people around us that are encouraging us. Some of us get to the point where we're too conservative, where you're scared of your own damn shadow. You're scared to make a move, or you go tell your family and they're scared, and fear is contagious. Fear is an economic destabilizer. Fear destroys economies. Fear ruins relationships. Fear will always keep you incarcerated for the rest of your life. So you cannot, if you're hoping to be a wealth builder and a successful person, you cannot live your life in fear. You cannot make all your decisions out of fear. Fear is a virus, and that virus can infect you when you're thinking, okay, I want to do something better. I just saw the Dame Dash interview. I'm gonna go for it. And everybody in your family's like, why would you quit that good job at the post office? They paying you $28 an hour. That's the best you ever gonna get. Don't want to hear that crap. If you got a relative, see some of y'all, everybody ain't built equal. Nobody, people aren't all the same. Some of y'all have superpowers that have not yet been unleashed. Some of you have intelligence that was a gift from the universe. Some of you have visions and ideas that are extraordinary, that are $1 million, $1 billion possibilities. And you can't really explore a $1 billion possibility when you're around a bunch of $10 Negroes. You can't climb Mount Everest when you're surrounded by people who want to keep their feet on the ground all the time. Like you have to be willing to kind of say, I kind of want to go for this. I kind of want to do this. My passion is calling me. And when someone dampens and kills your passion, I think that's a recipe for depression. I really do. I think that when you feel strongly like I this is something I really want to do, and you've done the research and you thought it through and you know you got that talent, it kind of sucks when everybody around you is kind of telling you that it ain't gonna work. That's not only going to make you more afraid, but it's going to reduce the probability that you're ever going to take that chance in the first place. So y'all don't understand how many trillions of dollars gets lost in the black community just by dreams that are never pursued because you never even took a chance. You never even because nobody around you takes any chances. And I get it. It's our history, right? We've been through slavery and trauma and everything else, so we always want to stay safe. So I would say that maybe the right balance, and this is where I this is how I reconcile my perspective with say a Damon Dash is I say, yeah, we need to hear that. We need to be pushed. We need to take some chances, be prepared to go out here and fail, but you got to know at the same time what that's going to look like, right? You got to know what you're getting into. So when I talk about investing, I don't tell anybody that a certain style is for everyone because it's not. Everybody has different levels of what they call risk tolerance. Everybody has different incentives, different objectives. So you once you figure out what your objectives are, then you develop a strategy that really works for you. So really, what I would say to you is don't let fear drive your decisions, but don't take risks that are not calculated because sometimes investing goes bad. A lot of you who are in the stock market right now fully realize you're feeling it right now. How many of y'all are feeling it right now? How many of y'all know? How many of y'all are feeling the stock market kind of hitting your portfolio, and you're like, oh man, this investing thing, this is kind of tough right now, right? And I get it. I get it. You have to hold on. In fact, I'm gonna bring my wife in tomorrow because she's a therapist and she actually did some workbooks on financial anxiety. And so she's actually going to come in and kind of talk you through this so you can calm down, stay focused, and stay with the bigger picture. Okay. So she's going to come in tomorrow morning. And actually, we did get Cornell West to agree to come in on Monday. I can't get him in at 10 a.m. So we're going to do something at a different time. I'll text you all and let you all know. If you want to be on the text list, pull out your phone, text the word morning, MORNING, to the number 87948. You can text morning to 87948. And also, I saw some of you live in other countries. So if you can't text morning to the number 87948, go to b1moneytips.com. b1moneytips.com. Be the number one. Moneytips.com is where you can also sign up for Money in the Morning. And then I think some of you were also asking where you could check out recordings and everything else. We're doing a limited time $7 trial, $7 monthly trial in the Black Business School that you could take a look at B1 accesspass.com, b1accesspass.com. So feel free to go to b1accesspass.com. For $7 a month, there's an introduction to stock market investing. There's a mini class on stock options. There's a mini class on how to start your business. There's a lot of and then also some of the recordings for Money in the Morning are in there. We've done hundreds of these lectures, so you can go grab it, share it with your family. It's just something we're trying out. So feel free to go to b1accesspass.com if that will help you. All right, so let's finish up with this sudden wealth syndrome and what this does and how this affects you. So basically, a lot of people that come into money for the first time, there is guilt. A lot of survivor guilt, where they feel guilty because because everybody else is struggling and they're doing well. Survivor's guilt may cause you to be overly generous. A lot of NBA, NFL players go through that. A lot of them don't go broke. Some of them go broke because they do silly things with money, but a lot of them go broke because they're so generous, because they're so appreciative to all the people that helped them get there. We always have this impression that every athlete just forgets where they come from. They go marry a white woman and they don't want anything to do with black people. Well, no, I knew a lot of athletes. I know a lot of athletes and entertainers that are deeply connected to the people that got them to where they are. So you start to feel like you have to really solve everybody's problem because you now are positioned as the financial superhero for everybody around you. And that becomes very, very difficult to maintain. But that survivor's guilt adds to the anxiety because there's a lot of pressure with paying everybody's bills. And then when you get to the point where you're 35 years old, you can't play basketball or football anymore. Well, you built up all these obligations, all these financial obligations. You know, you got four babies mamas over here, and you got friends over there where you've been paying so and so's rent for so many years. Your mama needs money, everybody needs money, and you get to the point where you've got, you know, financial obligations up to this level, but you're not making NBA money anymore. You're not making NFL money anymore. And maybe because the education stuff and the other preparation wasn't there, there's no other place you can go to make that money. Well, there was a guy named Lorenzen. I think it was Lorenzen Wright, but tell me if I get the name wrong. I might be getting the name wrong. I think he played for Memphis and he went to the NBA. He was really good. Tell me if y'all remember the story. I think he ended up dead. He ended up dying. I don't know if y'all remember. And I might get the name wrong. So forgive me if I got the name wrong. Then please correct me. But he ended up he got out of the NBA. He wasn't making NBA money, and it wasn't just his story. I've seen it happen all the time. And because he could not make that level of money anymore, there was a strong suspicion that he got into some stuff that he shouldn't have been getting into. And as a result, he ended up losing his life at a pretty early age in his 30s because I think he was stuck in that situation. Was it Lorenzen Wright, Terrence? Thanks for the name. And again, no disrespect to him. But that can happen, right? And so a lot of times, you have to be really careful. And this is a financial consciousness exercise. Consciousness means you don't just see what's happening right now. You got to see what's going to be happening in the future. You got to look down the road. You have to look at the what ifs, right? So if you're financially conscious, you say, I'm making all this money and, but this is temporary. This is not going to last. What's my next move going to be? Because 5 years or 10 years is going to go away pretty quickly. Or I'm an NFL player and I just signed this big contract, but the average NFL career is about 2.3 years. So NFL does not stand for National Football League. NFL stands for not for long. So because I know this and I know that there's a possibility that my career can end early, let me make other plans. People like Dr. Myron Rolle made other plans. Myron Rolle was a great player. I think he made the Pro Bowl. But Myron Rolle is now a surgeon at Harvard. He's a friend of mine. I love this guy. You got other people that went to the NFL that said, you know, I don't want to play. I think Robert Smith, who played at my alma mater, Ohio State, could have played in the NFL for many, many years, but he retired early. And people said, well, why would you retire early? You're a black man. Obviously, you have nothing else to do with your life. Well, Robert Smith said, no, I'm retiring early. And I believe he was retiring early because he knows a lot of players take hits to the head. And he said, my brain is more important than me getting another 3 or 4 years of running the ball up and down this football field. So he retired early. He was a great running back. And I don't know what he's doing now, but I bet he's very successful because he seemed like a guy that was thinking about the long view. He had a consciousness about him in terms of looking at his life and realizing I'm not going to be a 28-year-old athlete forever. One day I'm going to be 38, then 48, then 58. I got to process all of this instead of thinking that I just can only do one thing, right? So ultimately, a lot of the guilt and the anxiety of the sudden wealth syndrome can cause you to make certain financial decisions. That's where we were before. So let me circle back and get to where I was so we can finish this up. Another thing that can happen with sudden wealth syndrome is you have a lot of paranoia that can happen. And in fact, my friend that I was talking to that was telling me about his relative, he said she's very, very paranoid. She feels like everybody's coming at her. Everybody wants her money. And I said, yeah, that does happen because she got $4 million, and $4 million is a lot of money that that people don't have. So she's probably getting a lot of people coming at her from different directions, and then that paranoia can add to isolation because you are isolated. You're the only person that has that much money. You're the only person that knows how it feels to be you, and so in order to protect yourself and to deal with all of the frustration and anxiety that comes from broken relationships that occur when you and your cousin says, well, you won't loan me the money. You never loved me anyway. Well, F you. I ain't talking to you no more because now that you won that lottery, you think you better than everybody else. You're dealing with that. That's very painful to have to deal with. And I know this personally because I didn't have sudden wealth syndrome, but I did have with situations where my career changed and my life changed. So I couldn't quite go in all the same places I could before. I couldn't do the same things that I did before. I couldn't spend time with the same people that I did before. And it's hard. It's really, really hard to make those adjustments, and it can cause a lot of frustration, anxiety, and even some degree of isolation. And I'm and just in a point of just transparency, honesty, vulnerability, if you want to call it that. I still feel that. I still grapple with that, which might be why I married a therapist because I'm half crazy too. All right. So anyway, so that's pretty much my thought for today. I would just say overall that if you want a remedy or a solution to sudden wealth syndrome, number one would be financial literacy. If I'm in her situation and I come into all this money, you get those financial advisors on board, you get them in there and have them really working on your situation, have them set you up where you can protect the ball, preserve the wealth, grow the wealth, but still enjoy the wealth. And there's nothing wrong with that. What else do I do? Maybe you have family meetings. I told my friend, I said, hey, why don't you get your family together? I said, you're wealthy too. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, you got 5 kids. 5 kids, that's wealth. That's you're sitting on $1 million. You got 5 kids that love you. You should talk to them. I told him the story about the Rothschilds. You know, I told you all about the Rothschilds, how the Rothschilds became one of the wealthiest, strongest families on the planet for one reason, because the father got the kids together and said, we're about to go take over this game. He was strategic. He had a plan. He said, "You're going to start a bank in France. You're going to start a bank in England. You're going to start a bank in Switzerland." And the name, and then he told him, he gave him a code of conduct. He said, the name Rothschild is an important name. Your affiliation with the name Rothschild is one of the most valuable assets that you have. He also said, no one brother should let the other brother fail. If you're doing good and your brother is struggling, you come in and you help your brother out and you put each other first. That's it. We have Black first B1. They had R1 Rothschild first. So I told him, I said, when you meet with your kids, you give them a code of conduct. You come through for each other. You turn to each other. You work together with each other. You build with each other. You help each other out. You have each other's back. You understand the importance of the institution that you're building, and I said that institution will be as real as you make it. You are the king of this family. You are the patriarch. Yeah, I know the word patriarchy is not politically correct anymore, but to hell with what I try to be politically correct. I'm trying to be correct. Patriarch, matriarch, those words matter. Those are good words. So I said, you're the leader. You're the boss. You ain't gonna be the boss forever. One day you're gonna be the old man. Now you're the boss. So just know that this entity called your family, this entity is as real as you decide it's going to be. You're not dealing with like working at. I spoke at UPS. You're not, this week. You're not dealing with like working at UPS or you're working at McDonald's, some entity that's already there, right? Where you can take it for granted that it's there. No, this entity, this union will be as real as you make it because you are in what I would call you are what I would refer to as an emotional entrepreneur, meaning that you're the startup founder of this entity called your family. So as the startup founder, as the first person to sort of develop this thing, you have to have the vision to make it real because nobody else sees the vision but you. But the more you make the vision real, the more others will see the same thing you see. You're painting a picture for the rest of the world, and you gotta draw that damn thing. You gotta commit to it. You can't waver on this because if you waver, the world will waver. The existence of this thing comes down to how much energy you can put into it to make it real. This logo behind me, this panther, how many of y'all seen this panther before? Anybody seen it? How many of y'all seen this panther more than say 10, 20, 30 times? How many of y'all know this panther is connected to my grandmother Felicia? Give me a yes in the chat if you know this. How many of you can say for at least 5 years that if you heard the word Boyce Watkins, that meant something to you? Maybe it meant something good, maybe it meant something bad, but it meant something. You're like either I like that guy or I can't stand that guy. I don't care. I don't care which one it is. How many of you can say this? Well, how the hell do you think that happened? Because let's just rewind the clock. If you go back to 2006, didn't nobody care about the name Boyce Watkins? You go back in time, nobody cared about that. Nobody knew the Black Business School. None of that meant anything to anybody. It didn't exist. The name Boyce Watkins meant nothing at that time. But I said, shit, when I get done, it's going to mean something because I'm going to draw the picture for you. And the way I'm going to draw this picture is with consistency, consistency, consistency. Every single day, I'm going to remind you what this name means, what this logo means, what this whole space means. And it ain't rocking the world. We're not the biggest thing on the planet, but it means something to me. And there was nothing in my mind more important than making sure that, yeah, when you hear my name, you see me coming, you about to get something. You're either gonna like it, you're gonna love it, or you're gonna hate it. I don't even care. but I'm not playing with you. I'm not hesitating. I'm not wavering on this. I'm 100% crystal clear about what we're talking about. This black wealth thing, we are clear about this. So what I'm saying to you is that as you're building your family, you're building your business, you're building your empire, you're putting together your institution around you, you're getting those little badass kids together at the dinner table to talk about the family vision, you must be clear. Because if you are not clear, if you waste this opportunity, if you do not provide the clarity of leadership required for you to give your children a chance to build something great, then things are going to dissipate. People are going to go opposite directions. Kids are going to start fighting. When people die without clarity, it creates confusion. It creates a lack of vision. Sometimes it creates flat out war. Let me give you a last example. Anybody watch House of the Dragon? How many of you, or Game of Thrones? Any Game of Thrones fans? House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon is the prequel to Game of Thrones. And if you don't watch it, I can explain it to you. The whole House of the, it's like white people just being really ghetto. Like they just all trying to kill each other and everything else. They say only black people do that, but that ain't true. You go back to the history of Europe, they done horrible things to each other. So anyway, so House of the Dragon is a bunch of ghetto ass white people who had a lot of power. It was the family is called the Targaryens, and the Targaryens had a lot of power because they had these dragons, and they just nobody messed with the Targaryens because they were the baddest family on the block. The king had the crown and he had the whole empire and the whole realm did what he told them and all this other stuff. Well, you know what happened was when the king died, he did not give clarity on who was supposed to succeed him. So on one hand, he told his daughter, "You're going to be my heir. You're going to be the queen after I'm gone." And that was already controversial because typically you didn't pass that down to a female, you passed it to a man. But he was, he loved his daughter and his daughter was a great leader. And he said, "You know what? I'm giving this to you." Right? So he says that to his daughter. But then when he's on his deathbed, he mumbles something to his wife that seemed to contradict what he said to his daughter. He tells his wife, his new wife, that the son that she had, that's going to be the heir. Somehow she walked away with that conclusion. And so here's what happened. Because of a lack of clarity, the family ends up going to war with each other. They end up destroying each other from the inside. Because on one hand, they're like, no, no, no. He told me that she was supposed to be the leader, and there's a faction of people that believe her. And then the other side is like, no, 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 no. He said he's gonna be the leader. So anybody who feels like, well, the man should really be leading anyway, and we believe her, well, then that created a whole nother faction. So then what happens is the family loses power because they start fighting. And the reason they start fighting, there's one reason why they started fighting. There's one little thing that could have prevented that whole war. Clarity. Just clarity. Clear leadership. So that means that when you die, if you don't have a will, if you do what some of these celebrities are doing, you die without a will, you die without a trust, you die without specific instructions of what's going to happen to your money, then you are cursing your children because they can end up fighting over the resources. But if you have clarity, then you're minimizing the probability of that occurring. If you have no clarity and you say to kids, "Oh, we just gonna do whatever. We just out here we out here. We just living," and they don't have a clear vision, then that lack of clarity is going to lead to wasted potential. They're going to be all over the place. They're going to be trying to figure out what they're supposed to do next instead of listening to what daddy said that we're going to do next, or what mama said about what we're going to do next. So what I'm saying to you, I hope you're getting what I'm saying. I hope I'm not over talking this. I hope that this is making sense. Whatever it is you're doing, and I don't know what you're doing. A lot of y'all doing different things. Bless you. Whatever you're trying to do, I hope you succeed at it. But I can tell you that over time, and I'm speaking as a 53-year-old man who got his PhD over 20 years ago. So I've been a professor for a while. It's a lot of times it's the simple stuff that matters most. And what I learned is that leadership has to be clear. So I ask you at the end of the day, before we bounce out, what do you need to be clear about? Where's your clarity? And think about that. Be conscious about it. That's your consciousness exercise for today, because that will make a big difference in your ability to build wealth. There's like this story I told you about my friend, because everything's kind of messy. That wealth, that $4 million is going to be gone by the time that lady dies, and that makes me very, very sad, because that's an opportunity to turn that 4 million into 50 million or 100 million and make sure the grandkids and great grandkids are eating good. But instead, they're going to eat good for about 10, 15 years, and then it's all going to disappear. And you don't want that to happen to your family. Protect what you have. Protect the ball. 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 Use clarity. That will protect the ball. Got it? So we understand each other? All right. All right. So let me give you a couple quick things. Number one, again, if you want to do the $7 trial in the Black Business School, feel free to visit b1accesspass.com and just take a look, see what's there. It's a limited thing. We're just trying it out to see if you guys like it. So feel free to go to b1accesspass.com, be the number one accesspass.com. Also, if you want to join Money in the Morning, come into the private Zoom, you can go to b1moneytips.com. That's b1moneytips.com, or you can also just text the word morning to 87948. Text morning to 87948. Again, later on this week, Dr. Cornell West is coming in. Brother Nuri Muhammad is coming tomorrow. My wife, Dr. Alicia, is coming in. She's a therapist. She does really great financial therapy. I thought she would be appropriate because the stock market is kind of wiggling, and some of you get nervous, and she's going to help you kind of deal with that anxiety. And we'll be here every single day, 10 a.m. Eastern, every morning, like always. So God bless you.